Halo, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam,
Waalaikumsalam
Dokter.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Good
warahmatullahi
afternoon.
wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
All right, thank you for the response. And today we are going to discuss about still critical discourse analysis, but brought by Ten Van Dyke, right? And the one or the groups who will present about its material. Are you ready for today?
Inshallah, Doctor. We are ready.
All the members have been ready to present the presentation?
Not all the members, ma'am, because Miss Astridian have
Oh, she's the
informed
one, the
hands.
presenters, yeah. Oh,
Yes. So
unfortunately,
only two.
yeah.
Only two who
Okay.
will be present the for today.
Okay. All right. But the show must go on, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay, without any further ado, everyone, for the presenters, you've been ready. So it's time for you to share your knowledge about CDA based on Van Dyke, right? Okay, the screen is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rina. Allow me to share the screen first. Okay, let's start. Can you see the slide, everyone? Can you see it?
Yes, clear.
Yes, okay. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, Dr. Rina and all friends.
Waalaikumsalam.
Alhamdulillah, we can meet again in critical thinking class. In this occasion, we will deliver a presentation entitled Critical Discourse Analysis based on Ten Van Dijk theory. There are three members in our group, but as have we known that one of the member, Miss Astrid, can join the presentation. So only I am Nurlina as the first speaker and Miss Hasana as the second speaker. Let's start uh, from the first. Okay, I mean, sorry. Let's continue to the second slide. Here are the outline for these presentations. Consists of four main topics. The first is Van Dijk brief biography, and the second is the socio-cognitive approach to CDA. There are three dimensions, and the third, the synergetic relationship and the ideological square, and the fourth, key contribution and impact. And I forgot to add one more. This is about the conclusion. Now let's start from the brief biography about Van Dijk. His full name is maybe Ten. Is it true? Dr. Rina, sorry, is it true? Ten or how?
Yes,
Ten
ten.
Adrianus Van Dijk.
And
Yes,
Adrianus Van
Ten.
in
Okay,
a
thank you.
Dutch, Van Dijk. In English, in British is
Van Dijk.
Dijk. Dijk. Yeah. For English one
Van,
is Van
oh, Van Dijk.
Dijk. But yeah, for Dutch, because he
Van
was born
Dijk.
from Netherlands, right? So Van Dijk. It's up to you actually.
Yes, Van Dijk. Okay, thank you. Ten Adrianus Van Dijk. That's easier for me. Born in Nalwijk, Netherlands on May 7, 1943, is a distinguished Dutch scholar who has made profound contributions to the fields of text linguistics, discourse analysis, and most notably critical discourse analysis, or CDA. He is widely recognized as one of the founding fathers of CDA, an interdisciplinary approach that seeks to uncover the hidden mechanism of power, dominance, and social inequality as they are enacted, reproduced, and resisted through language and discourse. His travels, especially to Latin America in 1970, exposed him to stark realities of racism, poverty, and inequality. And this experience shifted his focus, leading him to realize the need for a social and critical component in discourse studies. This shift laid the groundwork for his development of critical discourse analysis in the 1980s. He became a professor of text studies at the University of Amsterdam from 1980 to 2004. And he also taught at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona in 1999. And let's continue to the main topic. This is about the socio-cognitive approach to CDA. There are three dimensions based on Van Dijk. The first is the text or discourse structure. In discourse structure, divided into three main parts. The first is macrostructure, and then superstructure and microstructure. Let's start from macrostructure or global meaning. This refers to the overall topic or main theme of a text. For instance, in a news article, the macrostructure is its central topic, often evidenced in the headline and leads paragraph. For example, in a news article about a controversial government policy, the macrostructure might be government introduce new austerity measures amid public protest. This captures the main topic the article addresses. And the second part is superstructure or schematic form. Superstructure pertains to the conventional formal organizational scheme of a text. As an example, for news report on the same policy, the structure follows the line or the lead paragraph that contains about who, what, when, and where to the event details. It is about background information such as quote from various stakeholders, and the last is concluding remarks or general outlook. It is for superstructure. Now let's continue to the next, that is microstructure or local meaning. There are three main parts for microstructure. The first is semantic, or the meaning of words or sentence. For example, in a new report, if the journalist states radical, the word leaves the tester is simulate growth. Claim instead of states or assert semantically injects a subtle doubt about the government assertion. And the next is syntax or sentence structure. Analyzes grammatical choice like active or passive voice, nominalization, or sentence complexity. For example, if the news report used protesters were dispersed by police, it is passive voice. Instead of police dispersed the protest, it is active voice. It syntactically de-emphasizes the agency and responsibility of the police, potentially making their action seem less direct or forceful. And next is style or lexical choice or register. Look at the specific vocabulary used and the overall registering term like migrant influx or undocumented individuals versus newcomer or asylum seeker reflect different stylistic choices that can influence public perception and policy debates. And next, let's continue to the last part, rhetoric or persuasive devices, explores the use of figures of speech and persuasive techniques. As an example, using a metaphor, like the economy is a sinking ship. The word sinking ship describes an economic downturn is a rhetorical device designed to evoke strong negative emotion and urgency, possibly to justify harsh austerity measures. Conversely, describing the government's economic plans as a beacon of hope is a positive metaphor. And for the number 2, the second dimension will be explained by Miss Anna. Miss Anna, time is yours.
Thanks, Miss Lina. I will be continuing to explain our presentation. In this slide is social cognitions, divided to part mind, mental models, and ideologies. These dimensions serve as the critical links between the textual features and the broader social context. Djik argues that discourse production and comprehension are mediated by cognitive processes, particularly mental models and shared ideologies. The first one is mental models. These are individual, subjective representation that people construct in their minds about specific events, situations, or peoples. They are dynamic and influenced by personal experience and knowledge. And the second one is ideologies. For Djik, ideologies are fundamental system of belief, attitudes, and values that are common within a social group. They serve to organize and control the social cognition of group members, shaping their perception of themselves or us and other groups of them. Ideologies mediate between social structure and discourse. Then next slide.
Slide.
Miss?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, the next slide is social context. In social context, divide to 5 parts: power and dominance, group relations, institution and organization, and societal structure. Djik emphasizes that discourse is inherently a social practice, never neutral, and always tied to relations of power. The first one is power and dominance. CDA central concern is how discourse is used to establish, maintain, challenge, or legitimize power and dominance by powerful groups, or how it's used to resist such dominance. This control our discourse influence public opinion and social practice. For example, in the case of government police news, the social context of power involves the government's authority to enact policies, the media's power to frame public debate, and the limited power of ordinary citizens to influence decision-making directly. The discourse might reflect the dominance of the government's narrative over the protesters' alternative perspective, particularly if mainstream media consistently prioritize official statement. And the second is group relation. This involves analyzing how discourse shaped and is shaped by interaction and perception between different social groups. For example, if the news consistently portrays protesters as unruly mobs, the emphasizing their legitimate concern, while presenting police action as maintaining order, emphasizing positive aspect of state authority. This reflects and reinforce specific group relations where the state holds dominant power over dissenting citizens. And the third, next, is institution and organization. The role of specific institutions, for example, the particular news channel, the government ministry using the police, activist group in producing and distributing discourse, and how their institutional norm and objective influence the discourse content and form. For example, a state-owned outlet, a state-owned media outlet coverage of the austerity measures might align strictly with the government narrative due to institutional directives, whereas an independent critical news outlet might feature more diverse voice and challenge the official discourse. And the last is societal structure. The broader social, political, economic, historical, and cultural structure that are influenced by discourse. For example, is the historical context of a country's economic policies, its political system, democratic versus authoritarian, exciting level of social inequality and prevalent cultural norms regarding protest or dissent will all shape how the news about austerity measure is produced and received within the wider social structure. And the next slide. Okay, the synergic relationship and the ideological square will be presented back by Miss Lina.
Okay. Thank you, Miss. Let's continue, everyone. It is the synergetic relationship and the ideological square. A key concept within Van Dijk work on ideology is the ideological square, or us versus them strategies. This framework describes how dominant groups strategically use discourse to, the first, emphasize our positive action or attributes. For example, the government is responsible addressing the economic crisis. And number two is they emphasize our negative actions. As an example, any minor inconvenience caused by the policy will be temporary. And number three, emphasize their negative action. The protesters' violent action undermine democratic process. And last one, they emphasize their positive action or attributes. As an example, the protesters' demand, while understandable, are ultimately unrealistic. And this is the last one about Van Dijk contribution to linguistic. He considered as the pioneering the CDA. Course. And next, centralizing power and ideology. He firmly established the study of power, dominance, and ideology as core concern within discourse analysis, moving beyond purely descriptive linguistic analysis. And the next contribution and sociology, demonstrating the complex interplay between language, mind, and society. And the next is groundbreaking research on them. His influential studies on the discursive reproductions of racism in news media and elite discourse have provided crucial insight into how language contributes to social prejudice and discrimination. And the next is academic leadership. He founded and edited several prominent international journals. For example, Discourse and Society, Discourse Studies, and Discourse and Communication, playing a pivotal role in the shaping the academic landscape of discourse studies, promoting critical literacy. His work encouraged public awareness of how language can be used to manipulate and control, fostering a more critical engagement engagement with media. It is all about our presentation, and now we can take the conclusion that Van Dijk theory help us understand how language in media, like news or speech, is used to build and share ideas, especially when those ideas involve power difference or hidden belief. It looks closely at three things: the word and structure of the message itself, and then the thought and bias of the person creating the message, and how the message fits into the larger social world with its power structure and shared ideas. In short, Van Dijk theory shows us that language is a powerful tool, not just for talking, but for shaping what people think and how society works, often to keep certain groups in charge. I think that's all about the whole presentation. And now let's continue to the Q&A session. There, we will give for three person to ask the question. Okay, anyone want to ask? Everyone, just raise the hand. Any question? Okay, Miss Twinnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask, the ideological square is a key concept in Van Dijk work for an analyzing the discursive construction of us versus them. Can you explain how this framework operates in practice to reveal strategies of positive self-presentation and negative other presentation? And how does it help expose underlying prejudices in media or political discourse?
Okay, thank you for the question. And maybe let's continue to the second question. Yes, anyone? Okay, Miss Sophie.
Yeah, thank you, Miss. I will give a question. Djik argues that critical discourse analysis, or CDA, isn't just a descriptive tool but has an emancipatory aim. How does this explicit critical stance differentiate this CDA from other, more descriptive approaches to discourse analysis? And what are the ethical and methodological implications of this commitment to social change within academic research? Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question? It is only three people who will ask the question. Mr. Haris? Or who?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
go ahead, Mr. Haris.
All right. Okay, the first want to say thank you for the presenter of this group for the chance for me to give the question. Okay, my question is Van Dijk's societal approach perceive that the relationship between discourse and society
Pak Haris, we lost
The
your
connection,
sound.
yeah.
Perhaps
Yes.
you can type to the comment or something because we couldn't hear the voice of yours.
Yes, no voice. Maybe we can answer the first and the second question, ma'am, while we waiting for Mr.
Yes,
Haris.
while
Okay.
Pak Haris is typing the questions on the comment,
Okay.
perhaps. Yeah, sure.
Okay, maybe Miss Anna will answer question number 1. Yes, please.
I will be try to answer question from Ms. Twinnie. The question is, can you explain how this framework operates in practice to reveal strategies of positive self-presentation and negative other presentation, and how do it help expose underlying prejudice in media or political discourse. Okay, for the answer of the first question is the ideological square is a fundamental analytical tools in Pendix's critical discourse analysis used to uncover how group ideologies, particularly those involved in group conflict of prejudice, are discursively constructed. It operates based on four case strategies. The first emphasizes positive thing about in group. This involves highlighting this desirable qualities, action, and achievement in one's own group. The second is emphasize negative things about them out group. This focuses on understandable qualities, failures, or harmful action attributed to the opposing or target group. And the third is the emphasize mitigate negative things about us. This involves not downplaying, accusing, or omitting any negative aspect or wrongdoing of one's own group. The fourth is the emphasis or mitigate positive things about them. This entails ignoring, ridiculing, or explaining away any positive attributes or achievement of the outgroup. And how it exposes underlying prejudice. The ideology square have exposed underlying prejudice and discrimination because polarization is constructed. It reveals how discourse systematically corrects a polarized us versus the implicit bias is revealed pattern across various texts. It shows so that linguistic choice contribute to a prejudice worldview even when over discriminatory language is avoided. And the third is legitimation of dominance. And the last is manufacturing consent. That's all enough. I think enough. Miss Winnie?
Yeah.
Clear?
Thank you for your answer. I think my question wasn't understood.
Winnie. Miss Lina, the last question from Miss siapa? Miss Sophie.
Sorry, everyone. The connection, my internet is not so good. Now let's continue to the number two. Yeah, I will try to answer the question for number 2. It is from Miss Sophia. The answer is, in practice, the framework operates by examining four interrelated discursive. The first is positive self-presentation. This involves highlighting the good qualities, achievement, and intention of one's own group. For example, a political party might constantly refer to our responsible policy. Number two, negative other presentation. This strategy focuses on emphasizing the negative traits, failures, or harmful action attributed to the opposing group. A news report, for instance, might consistently describe a protesting group as a disruptive or violent. And number three, the emphasizing as negative. Here, any negative aspect, mistake, or wrongdoings of the in-group are minimized, excused, or simply omitted. A government official might use language like errors were made instead of directly admitting fault for a specific policy failure. And number four, the emphasizing them positive. This strategy involves ignoring, ridiculing, or downplaying any positive outgroup. For example, a commentator might dismiss an opponent's ideological square help to expose underlying prejudice and discriminatory ideologies. It reveals how speakers or writers subtly or overly construct a polarized view of the world, making their own group seem inherently good and the other group. This analytical process illuminates how media and political discourse can contribute to the manufacturing of consent, legitimizing certain action against the them group, and perpetuating social inequalities based on pre-existing bias. For the answer, if Mr. Harris is okay, or anyone who will want to ask for number three, for the question number three, or is it enough? Maybe anyone want to answer? Want to ask a question? Is the connection okay, Mr. Harris? The sound is not so clear. Let me check the. Maybe you write down the question. Oh no, I can hear your voice clearly, Mr. Harris. Maybe Mr. Han want to ask something, Mr. Han? Or is it enough, everyone?
Enough?
Enough, yeah? Would you try again, Mr. Harris? Okay, I think the connection is not so good. So I think it is enough, yeah, everyone. That's all for our presentation. I'm sorry for all mistake. I'm sure this paper is far from perfect. So thank you for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay. However, thank you so much for the current groups who have already presented the topic about critical discourse analysis based on Van Dijk, yeah, and we have insight from that, of course. And this is time for me then. Okay, hold on a second. To sum up the understanding of CDA based on Van Dijk. Okay, maybe there was a warning from me last week. Oh, you should be careful when you are going to do or going to conduct a research with critical discourse analysis. Maybe that once. Reluctant to you, hopefully not, reluctant to conduct a research because I think CDA is quite interesting for you. Yeah, because you have a chance or opportunity to have your critical thinking to have a discourse on particular issues. Yeah. Okay. About Van Dyke, actually, overall have been explained by the current presenters today regarding about the definitions and then biography of him and the thought, the concepts, theories, mostly have been explained and described by the presenters of today. I'm just summarizing about this topic actually. Van Dijk's perspective discourse analysis is designed practically and interestingly by looking at the social context. You should underline about this one. And the major point of his thought or concept is about social context. And text analysis in Van Dyke model discourse analysis is not only based on the text, of course, but also pays attention to the productions of the text itself. So that conclusions can be drawn why the text was produced like that. What is the purpose? What is the meaning and what are the benefits in it? And the model used by Van Dijk is often referred to as a social cognition. So what does it mean by social cognition actually? Okay, Van Dijk critical discourse analysis model is often referred to as a social cognition discourse analysis because Van Dijk not only looks at the structures of the text, but also sees how discourse can be formed. Can be formed by whom? By the audiences. Yeah, of course, the one who make the discourse or the text one is the writers. And of course, there's intentions why the writer do that or present the text is like that. In a concept, the discourse analysis model of Tent A. Van Dijk combines all dimensions of discourse consisting of the text, social cognitions, and social context. In the text dimensions, the part that is analyzed is how the structure of the text and the strategies contained in the discourse influence and emphasize a certain topic. One of the aims of Van Dijk's CDA of dominance and power relations, manifestations, and conflict is to relate the linguistics or discourse level or dimensions to the social and cognitive structure. So actually the text itself displays in particular occasions is to up particular conflicts such as inequality, injustice, misuse of power, dominance, a majority or authority of someone and result from the discourse productions and consumptions. And for Van Dijk, discourse is produced, processed, and understood based on the above cognitive structure in that the components of discourse. And we can analyze it through the linguistic elements because our major is in a language field, right? So we can analyze through the linguistic elements, for example, in analyzing of the text based on Van Dijk thought, such as from its words, phrases, clauses, sentences, paragraph, or others. And then we proceed, represents, and even controlled by this mental model, knowledge, and sometimes ideologies presented on its text. In other words, context should be defined and dealt with according to the participants' mental models of specific communicative events. And this is the model of Van Dijk actually that is true, being explained by the presenters of today. And the first cluster ones is text, text analysis, and then social cognition. And the last one is social context. And in the dimensions of the text itself, it discusses the structures of the text and the discourse strategy used for certain themes, for example, what kind of themes in the text. And the second be obtained from the results of analyzing how the discourse process is used to describe a certain persons or events. At the level of social cognitions, it explains how the process of discourse text is produced. This process involves individual cognitions. In this case, is the text writer, why the writer deliver the text like that, and what is the intentions or what are the purposes, what kind of a framing, sharpened, and so forth. The text writer describes discourse through his life background. It's easier to say that social cognition is the reason the text writer makes the discourse of the text. And then the third aspect one is social context. It studies how the discourse develops in society. At this level, it analyzes how a discourse is developing in society. And the social context related to the discourse building that develops inside is towards the discourse itself. And then understanding a discourse is not only through self-perception, but it's also necessary to have a public response to a discourse. So that's true. Of course, the intention of the text itself to captures how the public's having a response to particular issue that up on its text. And as a researcher in detecting hidden ideology from the text, the researchers need to evaluate all formal structures, examine the historical, political, or social background and context of discourse, such as the conflict and argumentation and its main participants, and then analyze the power relations, hierarchies, and conflicts involved, and then identify positive and negative opinions, such as building by the concept of us and them. Who's the one as us? Who's the one as them? Who's the positive side and who's the one is negative side? And of course, it invites opinions, stances, and attitudes from the readers. And that's the functions of the text or display text. Make explicit the implied and the presupposed. And this one is the level of analysis that you can apply when you conduct a particular analysis utilizing a Van Dyke model. The first one that's true is macro structures, and the second one is superstructures, and the last one is microstructures. Let's come up from the macro structure first, and this is the global meaning. It's been explained by the presenters today too. The global meaning, what we search in the macro structure here. We search the global thought, the global idea of it. Like, for example, the theme, the topic, a particular news, for example. And for the superstructure, we investigate the discourse structure. For example, related to the framework of the text and the parts of the compositions of the text itself, such as introductions or body or conclusion. How the text is delivered through the introduction, the body, and the conclusion one. And the last one is the microstructure, or in the meaning in discourse that is observed to the smallest part of the text. So we can't evaluate or we can analyze from its words, sentences, prepositions, propositions, clauses, paraphrase, and picture, and the other one. And here I display the example from the article written by Derry Rofino and et al. Yeah, and the title is a Fear Rhetoric in the Online News Discourse on the COVID-19 Pandemic in Turn Van Dijk's Critical Discourse Analysis. We have experienced the time of COVID-19 pandemic time, right, everyone's? So we still remember that everyone having a fear to go out, having a fear to do meet each other in face-to-face setting, right? Did you still remember about that one, everyone, in the time of COVID-19 pandemic time? So actually, through the news, to the news article, we can evaluate, we can analyze what kind of the ideology is hidden from its sides. So these researchers try to analyze it using Van Dyke CDA, yeah. And the first structure one, or the first dimensions one from the writers looking at from the macro structure, and it is called estimatic one. So they analyzed through 3 articles or through news article, and in the macro structures, they found that this structure allow us to observe the topic elements contained in the discourse. So the researchers' functions here investigated about the theme inside of the article or news article in the context of in the level of macro structures. Do you understand, everyone? The first point when you are going to analyze utilizing Van Dijk's is the level of macrostructures. And here what you should do is to search to find the topics or the themes. Okay, because this is a global one. Okay, later on, if in your final exam, you should analyze using Van Dijk's, the first step, you use the microstructure. And what you should do is to find or observe or search the theme or topic in particular data. The data here is the 3 news article. So the researchers here found or revealed about the first news focused on the latest figures on COVID-19 cases, and the second news one focused on data that supports a larger number of confirmed cases in Indonesia, which causes total COVID-19 cases in Indonesia to exceed other countries in Southeast Asia. And then the third news focuses on government efforts to overcome the economic downturn and security threats during the outbreak. Okay, for example, if I gave you particular research article and you are instructed to find, the elements, dimensions of analysis of Van Dijk. Can you do that, everyone? Do you understand my questions? Okay, for example, from the first step, you have microsector. Okay, the next one is superstructure. Okay, from the superstructures based on the scheme, generally every news begins with a headline. So the news or the researcher here decided the headline as their tool of analysis in according to superstructure or schema. At the same time, the lead provides an overview of what will be discussed further in the news and leads the reader to the core discourse based on the news analysis framework to news 1 to 3. It can be seen that its news begins with a headline. So utilizing headline as a tool in the superstructure analysis. The headline of the first news was Indonesia's latest official COVID-19 figures. So everything is fine, but mentioning COVID-19 make me worrying or make me fear of the reader. Indonesia now leads Southeast Asia in confirmed coronavirus cases, and the second news one. And the third one is the COVID-19 tele phrases for social unrest. Yeah, using unrest. What does it mean, unrest? Actually, the word unrest is for someone arrested, but this is unrest, the using of the word. Okay, and the last one is a microstructure one. In the microstructure ones, the researcher here displaying several topics such as semantic and then syntax and then stylistic and semantic ones. They found in a setting, details, intentions, presuppositions, and nominalizations. And the 4 syntax ones, they found sentence form, coherence, and pronouns. And for the microstructure ones, they found stylistic, for example, lexical. And the next one for rhetorical, they found metaphor, expressions, and graphic. And this is they found about microstructure level ones, microstructure analysis one. And then they presented too in a depth analysis. For example, from the first article, they cluster or divide into several analysis parts. The first one are microstructures. And the elements thematic topics such as the result of analysis is COVID-19 cases in Indonesia, and then superstructure schematic schema, and then the summary explains the headline, namely Indonesia latest COVID-19 figures, while the law explains the health minister official announcement regarding the increasing number of new COVID-19 confirmed cases, and the news story explains the developments of cases of COVID-19 infection in Indonesia. The news end with a statement that the virus has spread to all provinces in Indonesia. That's why the topic up in this article is fear, because the information about the spreading of the virus at that time, yeah. So when the reader read about the spreading information about the viruses, it means that it make or it the purpose make the reader having a fear to go out of somewhere because the news of information, the spreading of COVID-19 and in the pandemic time at the time. And for microstructures, they analyze it through settings, detail, instances, presuppositions, and nominalizations. About the setting element discusses confirmed cases. And the detail element discuss the number of the deaths, the patients recovered, and new cases COVID-19 infection nationwide. And the intentions element informs the current conditions of the COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. And the presupposition element explains that coronavirus has spread throughout provinces in Indonesia. Well, actually, it's not, right? Actually, not all of the provinces in Indonesia actually have got or have infected of the virus actually, but the news here displaying about all of the provinces in Indonesia. And it makes the audience to make a worry and reluctance to go out because of the informations of the spreading of the viruses. The nomination element was not found in the text, and then the microstructure they found or display or they reveal about syntax, sentence forms, coherent and pronoun, such as in the sentence form element explain the use of deductive patterns. Deductive means coming up from the issues, the problem rising up, and then giving the explanation how good the problem is occurs in a particular occasion or particularly regarding the topic of COVID-19 spread in Indonesia at that time. And then deductive pattern because it display data of the coronavirus spread as the problem of our nation at the time at the beginning of the sentence, then followed by supporting sentence. The coherence element can be seen from the statement of Health Minister Ahmad Yuryanto at that time about the number of people who died due to the exposure of the coronavirus, followed by statements of the number of patients recovered. And the pronouns element indicates the health minister is pronounced from Ahmad Yuryanto at that time. And the last one is, the next one is microstructure in the stylistic dimensions, such as lexicon. Lexicon is the words used in the text. Explain the no specific word choice actually found in the discourse, but in rhetorical, they found graphic metaphor expression. The graphic element explain the Minister of Health's concerns. Look in the photo provided by the media, for example, the photo of Minister Health at the time. No metaphor element was found. This is the first analysis of the news article. For the second and the third, perhaps you can read it individually or independently, okay, everyone's. These are the examples of analysis of utilizing critical discourse analysis based on Van Dijk, yeah. So your duty as the researcher, actually why you should learn about CDA is this can be an idea for you to conduct research later on in your thesis later on, yeah. Perhaps you are interested in the context of critical discourse analysis using Van Dijk's research. So you can apply kind of like this one. This is the example. Okay, everyone, I'd like to invite you to join with me. For example, what do you think if you have a news of this one? Let's see the news that occurs right now about the exploitations of Raja Ampat. Have you heard about this
Yes,
news?
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
It's a
only
trending topic for
news.
now.
Okay, in Bahasa Indonesia, perhaps not in Bahasa Inggris, because in Bahasa Inggris only Jakarta Post, right? We have only Jakarta Post. So I use Bahasa because we have various news in Bahasa. Meanwhile, when we use in English only, we have only Jakarta Post, right? So we cannot analyze it if only one news. So it will be varied if we use Bahasa Indonesia as the data. But in your thesis, it's not allowed that your data is in Bahasa. Yeah, so you should take the data in English language, text one. Okay, eksploitasi. Okay, let's see. Let's learn from the news. And then perhaps you can immerse your intuitions to do a research after read the news one, because the deductive one, we come from the controversial issues, we come from that one as the idea of our analysis, right? Because the main idea of Van Dijk is social cognition. Do you know the meaning of social cognition? It shaped the audiences, it shaped the readers to think about us and them. So who's the right positions and who is the wrong positions? Yeah, dramatized in the text. That's the idea of Van Dijk's, different from Fairclough that we have or that we had learned last week. That's the idea of Van Dijk. So we are invited to criticize something, the inequality, the misuse of power. So that's why the language is a power, because language is the tool, yeah, to demonstrate, to criticize. Yeah, that language is the tool based on the Van Dijk. That produced by several news media, ya. The first one, dampak tambang nikel Raja Ampat, sedimentasi hingga deforestasi. Okay. So who's us here? Can you analyze it? And who's them? Rusak alam Raja Ampat, gegara
Yeah,
tambang
yeah.
nikel.
Because of Mr. Bahlil, right? Is it true?
Okay, we cannot blame somebody here. Come on, as a teacher,
Because
we
of
should.
him. Because of him.
Okay, right. Okay, should do something scientifically. Okay, we couldn't directly blame somebody, blame someone. Let's try applying the concept of Van Dijk here. For example, us and them, as the questions of Mbak Twini tadi that has not been answered by the presenter, right? So who's the concept us here?
Of course, Bahlil.
Okay. That's actually that's
That
the
is his
intention, that the
idea.
purpose of Van Dijk.
That
That
is
is
the
his
positive,
idea, and
the
then she
positive
sent to the
one.
president.
Them is the negative one, gitu, Miss MM.
No,
There's
no,
no
actually
negative.
no.
There's no
It's different.
positive. There's just all the negative. Iya dong, rusak itu
Okay,
namanya.
calm down, calm
Jauhnya
down.
Raja Ampat.
Okay, calm down. Okay, calm
Yeah,
down,
okay.
everyone. So please, the
Yeah.
text displays, yes, the text display, the display text to frame. Actually, the function is to frame the audience to agree with the text, with the display, the text. Okay, do you understand what I mean? This is intentionally made up. This is intentionally written up by the writer to invite the reader agree with their ideology. Do you understand? The text, every text has ideology. Okay, so there are us and them in this idea. Okay, see, deforestasi, kemudian rusak alam. Okay, why the diction, the lexicon here, rusak alam, right? Of course, there is ideology, like Mbak Mary, ya, suddenly agree about this text. Gitu. Bahlil is the wrong person one, that the one that we can blame one. That's the other, and it works. The writer works then. Do you understand? And that's the purpose of the writer, to agree about the writer's ideology, actually. But as a scholar, as a researcher, we have to learn it carefully, especially when we, as an analyst, yeah, we cannot stand in one side only, but we have to understand the evidence behind this text. Yeah. We have to understand the hidden ideology. What is actually? I ever heard also the news about the ship named by ex-president and president's wife, right? But we don't know that is the true or not, right? So we cannot just follow is the news while the news there is not displaying the evidence. For example, yeah, eksploitasi nikel di Raja Ampat. When we put or when we insert the concept of Van Dijk here, us is as let's see what the Van Dijk wants is to present the inequality or
Go to
misuse of the
the
power, misuse of the dominance. Who's the dominance where he is? Who has the authority once?
the
The government.
the government
The government with the
or
company.
the company.
Yes, the company of the exploiter. Yeah. So here the exploiter is them, and then us is the victim one.
The yes,
Yeah, the Papuan one, someone who has a minor right, who has no power. That one is us. Okay. And someone who has a power and misuse the power is them. That is the concept of Van Dijk here. And the concept of social cognizance is through this text, the writer wants invites the reader to understand that there is many laws of these exploitations. Yeah, but and then they support by several language or linguistic aspect here, and then the duty of us the researcher analyze through the linguistic one by micro and then superstructure and then microstructures. Okay, do you understand everyone? So just don't directly agreeing or accepting the ideology of the writer. We are as a scholar, we should have scientific thinking, not only believing what the text is about. Okay, so if we would like to understand the ideology, then we have to analyze the text carefully. Yeah, you understand? Okay, hopefully this answer Mbak Twini's questions. Yeah, the concept of us and them. And also the questions of Mbak siapa tadi? Sophie ya.
Sophie, Mbak Sophie.
Yeah, Sophie. Yeah. Mbak Sophie about ethical. She concerns about ethical and methodological when we are going to conduct such kind of like Van Dijk analysis because we have to mention someone who has the power, right? And what the questions of Patu last week, is there an illegal issue then where we are going to do kind of like this analysis? Oh, yes, of course. If your text is not presenting reliability, yeah, reliability is something that you should responsible with your text. That's why the ethical and methodological procedures is crucial when we are going to do a CDA analysis. For example, we support by doing with triangulation. We support by presenting or displaying the theory of critical discourse of Van Dijk. We only analyze the text following the theory of CDA Van Dijk, and we do not know, we don't have any intentions to intimidate someone that we mentioned in our analysis. That is necessary. It is called as a triangulation there. And a very good one or the better one if we do confirmations to the person's one that we mentions on the text, but we cannot do that because we don't have any access to the person one. However, when someone is displayed on the online like this one as a mass consumption, so it is allowed to us to do an analysis. So we don't have to, for example, confirming to Ahmad Aris, for example, because it's been displayed in compass.com. So when it is already displayed in compass.com and legally as the mass consumptions, so we can also analyze it through this one. Do you understand? Something that has been displayed in a commercial and we are allowed without any requirements here. So it means that we can read it, right? So we can analyze it, right? But the better one is you should ask permissions from the compass.com. Yeah, can we analyze the language in compass.com as our data? That's the most appropriate one. That's why when you do tests of permissions, right, from this institution when you are going to conduct in particular school one, online media has already shared the news article through this one. It actually like to do analysis. So far, I found that several research articles no mentionings of ethics. For example, like this one, this is the article. Yeah, this is the article. There is no informations of consent. Yeah, the letter of consent, ethical codes when we are going to conduct a yeah, to the data or to the sites of data. That's the better one. We just analyze it through the news research article on online media directly without any consents. But the better ones is I suggest you, advise you to do that as the proper procedure one. This one is some example, yeah. A movie, a documentary movie about Jessica Wongso. The next one is some Jin Company English class film. This is not about news, but it's about movie regarding about gender issues. Yeah, so actually we can analyze this using feminism issue. However, the researcher here selected in discourse analysis through turned A Van Dyke CDA. And then another one, for example, political communications of Korleko village. It is not too famous, actually, the topics of Korleko village, but it's also controversial issues because it has many, what do you call, unique from this village. And the next one is study of CDA. Now, this one mentioning the president, right? It's risky actually, but the researchers are brave to do that. Yeah, this is from State's University of Yogyakarta's lecturers, perhaps. And they criticize about the news, Jokowi news until ministry-related oil prices in 2021. Yeah, the policy of rising of oil. Yeah. There is no consent and there is no explanations that the researcher here asked permissions to the news online of berita1.com, right? Well, actually, it should be. And this one is about article about CDA. And the last one is critical discourse analysis news, PPKM, yeah, at the times about a pandemic, yeah, after the pandemic one. Okay, these are the examples, yeah. If you ask about ethical code and methodological procedures when we are going to conduct research utilizing of CDA, that one is Mbak Sophia, the answer. And the last questions is about the last questions is from
Please,
Paris.
Paris.
So what is the what is the questions, Paris? Is there anyone having the questions of Pak Haris?
Yes, ma'am. A minute.
Since the chat is empty, there is no information about Pak Haris' questions. Is there any questions? Or is there anyone captured of Pak Haris' questions? And inviting your adrenaline, actually, if you would like to conduct research kind of like this one. Because we criticize someone, somebody, some institution, yeah, some policy, some song, some movie, and so forth, right? But what we must concern, we only focus on analyzing the language, yeah. The language, okay, the language used, yeah, because our discipline is linguistic or English educations, yeah. Okay, anyone capturing?
Yes, ma'am. Here is the question.
A bit.
How does the explicit critical stance differentiate his CDA from other? CDA from Van Dijk to others, and more descriptive approach to discourse analysis. And what are the ethical and methodological implications of this commitment to social change within academic research?
Okay, I think I have already answered those questions. Yeah, I have already explained and described about the ethical approach or ethical method where we are going to conduct research of kind of like CDA. So the better one is you should ask the permissions, of course, and then you mentions the letter of consent that you have already get the permissions from the data sites, data owner, and so forth. That's the better ones. But however, many of the researchers, particularly Indonesian researcher, had done the research kind of like CDA. They can do that without any consents or ask the permissions from the data owner, yeah. Because they took it from the, as I told you, in online for the mass consumption. So I think it's okay without any permissions, yeah. And then I have already also mentioned about the differences among other CDA. The characteristics, obviously from Van Dijk's is social cognizance, right? So the main purpose of Van Dijk's is framing the audiences here is the readers or the watchers of our text to have similar ideology from the writers. That is the difference from another ones. That's the characteristics of Van Dijk's because from the text, from the displayed text, it's kind of like a tool, yeah, to criticize, yeah, particular issues. That's why the aspect or dimensions in Van Dijk's, there is a social cognizance, yeah, that one. And also the concept of us and them, right, as I have explained previously. Yeah, invite the reader to agree to us something concerns. Okay, that's my questions. That's my answer. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, once again, when we are going to conduct a research of kind of like this one, so we have to be careful, yeah, because we're mentioning someone, somebody, some institution, right, some policy, yeah. If we are not having much experience of presenting triangulations and about methodological, because we don't really understand how to responsible with our text, so you should learn it carefully before gitu. Commonly, the one who do or conduct a research kind of like this is a lecturer who conduct research lectures, a linguistic lecturer, or maybe postgraduate lecturer. But I ever found in State University, Islamic State University repository, I also found undergraduate students also conduct kind of like the research, but perhaps under the supervisors, right? Yeah, because undergraduate thesis is under supervisors, but it will be risky for someone who has no experiences before in conducted CDA without any supervisors doing this. Yes, Pak Toto. Yes, Pak Hen.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Rina.
Waalaikumsalam
Very sorry to break in to interrupt you. Yeah, it seems that this one is a little bit complicated to me, but not
Yeah.
to all my friends. Yeah. This one is my understanding toward this, that it seems that this one is kind of a relationship between language, power, and ideology. Isn't that right? And also, you said that you got to be very careful when using this kind of theory, because this one also invite this kind of an agreement, and also what else that try to make an opinion of the readers. Yeah, that's too risky to use this kind of theory for us.
Actually, the risky here if you publish it.
Oh, I see.
Publish it on a journal, right? Because the reader coming from around the world, right? Around the world means that someone who read your article can be someone that you discuss about in the text. Do you understand? If you
Yes, ma'am.
publish it, if you just conduct it as assignment is okay, no problem. Unpublished, no problem. But risky for publish it, yeah, in a journal. For example, for your master, for your master thesis later on, you should carefully listen to your supervisor if you would like to do this kind of like research, okay? Because supervisors will responsible, right? We support you. You do that or you undertake the master thesis under the guidance of supervisor, right? So there is supervisor backup you. So it's okay. But if you work alone, so you should be careful. If particularly if you would like to publish it in online journal system or any kind of book, whatever. That means too
I
risky
see.
here.
Yeah, this theory is very provocative.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Very provocative, is it? Because the idea, the topic, also the provocative one. Yeah. So invite the reader to read it, right? If the topic is not provocative one, so the reader will not read our article, right? Our ideology to write. So we unbox something provocative topic one. That's the interesting of
Thank
CDA.
you very much.
As when they say that something unequal, something misuse of power, and it is. This is the hidden ideology behind the text displayed. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the questions, yeah, Pak Toto.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you,
So you
ma'am.
can do it as long as unpublished.
Okay, ma'am. I will, ma'am.
But actually, the point is you understood the framework. Yeah, the framework analysis of this kind of CDA by Van Dijk one. That's the most important because you have to accomplish or you have to finish or undertake your final exam later on. Yeah, there will be a questions about Van Dijk CDA, of course, in your final exam later on. This is the most important of this idea of CDA Van Dijk. That's the most important. Okay. Well, is there any questions more? All right, if there is no more questions, let's meet again, inshallah. 2 weeks later, yeah, because next week is holiday. Yay!
You're happy, aren't you?
So you can
Yay.
spend holiday time with family next week. Alhamdulillah.
You
Alhamdulillah
too,
for me
ma'am.
too.
Finally, ada libur juga.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. A little bit surprised because of my friend. Oh, next week is holiday. Oh, I search an academic calendar. Alhamdulillah, then so I can go out with my family because it's holiday season for my children, right?
Oh, okay.
Because my schedule is in the middle of Sunday. Oh my God, it's quite for me to go out with my family. Okay. Okay. Happy holiday,
Thank you, ma'am.
everyone.
You too.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
in 2 weeks, and two
Thank
weeks
you,
later.
ma'am.
Keep healthy and stay safe, everyone. See you next week later, inshallah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the
Waalaikumsalam
bye.
warahmatullahi
Warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes.